All right, so let's have a look at what we're going to build. You can see this little application here, which is called Room Demo, and it allows us to store data permanently. We're going to use Room for that, which is part of Jetpack, which is a library that was introduced for Android app development a couple of years ago and is now the best practices way of storing data. So let's try this. So let's say I have a name and an ID that I want to store in here. So dennis@info.com, for example, and I add this record. So now I have this record which will be there permanently. So even if I close my application and then I come back to it, the data will still be there. If I now delete this data and I come back to the application after closing it, the data will be gone as well. So this is just a clean way of storing data permanently on your phone, which you will need for quite some different types of applications. So let's have a look at what Room is and understand this a little better. So basically, Room allows us to save data in a local database. It's part of the Android Jetpack suite, which is a suite of libraries to help developers follow best practices. And it contains a bunch of different libraries, as you see here. If you scroll through it, there are many. Okay, and we're going to specifically use Room now. The Room Persistence library provides an abstraction layer over SQLite to allow fluent database access while harnessing the full power of SQLite. In particular, Room provides the following benefits. So you can see here compile time verification of SQL queries, convenience annotations that minimize repetitive and error-prone boilerplate code, and streamlined database migration paths. So basically, it's building up on SQLite, which would have been the old-fashioned approach of storing data permanently on your Android device, but it's basically just a layer on top, which allows us developers to do it in a safer fashion and a lot more conveniently. So let's look at a little presentation here that we've prepared. So first of all, let's look at an introduction here. Basically, saving information locally on a device is a very important feature for any Android application. Users most of the times would like to have their data available on the phone easily without needing to connect to the internet. And the SQLite database is provided in Android to make saving data locally possible, but it involves quite a number of boilerplate code lines. So Room is a Jetpack library, as we saw, which it was created as a wrapper around SQLite that makes it easy to write complex SQL statements to query the data you need without having to go through every single column. So let's look at the components of Room. So there are three components. First of all, the entity, which is a data class that serves as the database table and will contain variables to build out a column. The class must be annotated with the @entity keyword and must have a variable that will serve as primary key, which is denoted by the annotation primary key. We're going to see what that all means. It's confusing to just see a word and a bunch of sentences following it. We're going to specifically see how that is used in an actual example, as you've seen with the little Room demo. So then we have the DAO. And the DAO is an acronym for Data Access Object and is an interface that contains the necessary query to be performed for any of the operations required by the app. There are available convenient methods like @insert, @fetch, @update, @delete. And there is also @query that allows you to write custom SQL statements. And also note that you must annotate the interface with @DAO. And then we have the database. This class is annotated with @database and extends the Room database. It contains the database setup with the entity and serves as the main access point to the database connection. Okay, so let's see all of this stuff in action in the next video.